Hello, how are you? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. We're
How's
just
everybody
waiting.
doing?
Good. Just waiting a few more minutes for folks to join, and we start in like
Okay,
3 minutes.
perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Sam, can we have the slides up? Okay, let's start. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our third office hour on California's BEAD subgrantee selection process. My name is Ali Eshraghi, and I serve as one of the program and project supervisors for the BEAD program here at the California Public Utilities Commission. I'm joined today by my colleagues from the CPUC and CTC Technology and Energy, and they will introduce themselves as they answer the questions. Um, Here's the agenda for today's session. We have started with a brief welcome and some housekeeping notes. This includes an overview of how to navigate the Zoom interface and the scope of this office hour today. Uh, We'll then move on to the main segment where we'll address your questions and provide answers we can. And if we need to take some of your questions back, we'll do that. And then we will include those in our FAQ document. Finally, we'll wrap up by outlining next steps and sharing some important reminders. Next slide. So let's cover the guidelines for participating in today's Q&A session. To ask a question, please write your question in the chat, raise your hand, and wait to be called on before speaking. Keep yourself on mute until it's your turn to speak. If you're called upon to clarify any parts of your question, please provide the clarification in the chat afterward. This would help us accurately capture your input for inclusion in our FAQ document. We'll start with the first round of questions, giving everyone a chance to ask one question. Please avoid multi-part questions during the first round. After the initial round, if time allows, we open the floor to additional questions. If you'd like to follow up on someone else's question, please write it in the chat and wait to be called upon. Thank you for your cooperation. Next slide. Here is some information to guide today's session. This session is focused on questions about the subgrantee selection process, specifically topics covered in our previous webinars. We had 7 webinars so far, and all of them, both the slides and recording are available on our website. Several aspects of the BEAD program are still being finalized. Some questions may need to be addressed in a future session or in our FAQ document. Sorry, there was an issue with my camera. If you have questions about the challenge process, please email them to bead@cpuc.ca.gov. This session is focused on the subgrantee selection process, as I mentioned earlier, and we may not have the right subject matter experts on this call to address challenge-related questions. As a reminder, the CPUC is required to follow the rules established by the NTIA, which administers the BEAD program. And questions and answers from today's session, as I mentioned earlier, will be included in our FAQ document. In addition, we are recording this session, and the recording will also be made available on our website. Thank you for joining us today, and let's get it started. We can take the slides off. As I mentioned, if you have a question, please write it in the chat, raise your hand, and wait to be called on before speaking. I'll just give it a second before we go through the questions. I see a couple of them now. So the first question, can you please post a link to the BEAD FAQ page where you are answering our office hours questions? We haven't posted the link is available on the slides at the end, the page. But the first version of the FAQ document basically will be posted in the next couple of weeks, hopefully next week. But there isn't a document, but there is a page that the link is available. And you can see it on the last slide when we go back to next steps. And I see Franny Cooper from CTC has shared that link in the chat. So there was a question in terms of a question that has been submitted to our email box. We get back to you on that. We are working on that question, and we are including part of that in our FAQ document. But in terms of responding to that email, you should expect an email very soon from us. Then will we have access to maps? We are finalizing the map. I would say in the next couple of weeks, pending some final approval from NTIA. But if you have, can follow up with our challenge process team and email that to bead@cpuc.ca.gov if you want further information. So the next question, I'm going to ask Ziggy to go through that. Ziggy, do you want me to read that, or do you want to summarize the question and provide your input? The question in the following scenario.
Could you read it aloud?
Sure, yeah. In the following scenario, which entity should bid on the BEAD grant? A large telecom general contractor that does not own or operate an ISP is owned by an overlapping ownership group that also owns a small ISP that has subscribed and is registered with the FCC, etc. The GC is much larger and can more easily meet all the qualification requirements financially and technically. However, the GC and the ISP have different EIN numbers, but a similar ownership. If they're going to partner, which should be the lead bidder?
Yeah, so we've received a similar question, and we're working on a response that hopefully should be up very soon. But the short answer to this is whichever you think works best. This is essentially considered a partnership, and as long as the applicant is lead applicant that fills this out is responsible for meeting all the required requirements and commitments, it doesn't much matter how you jiggle it and who's responding, etc.
Thank you, Z. The next question is if there are any updates on when the pre-qualification or application process may begin. So we are finalizing a timeline, and that should go out hopefully by next week. That will be posted on our website as well as being sent to our email list. So if you are not on that, please register for that. So the next question basically is again a timeline, as I answered the previous one. The next one is, are there specific rules regarding partnership bidding? Zig, anything to provide, or do you need more?
No, not. There aren't additional rules, but if you have partners that are part of this, then the questions that apply to the lead applicant would also apply to your partners.
Waiting for next questions.
Now, I believe that just one clarification. I do believe that there are some rules regarding conflicts of interest. So you can't have a partner that is also partner with somebody else that is bidding at the same time. But other than that, should be fairly straightforward.
The next question is, will there be any scoring points for working with the government or non-profit? So the scoring rubric is available on our IPv2. So the short answer is no, but the details you can find in our IPv2, the scoring rubric. Is there an organization that is gathering all county broadband goals in California, county by county? We need to get back to you on that question. Is there a list of all POCs, point of contacts for different county broadband offices? related to previous question, we'll get back to you on that. The California Broadband Challenge map now has a filter for BEAD eligibility post-challenge. Can we begin network planning from this map, or do we need to wait for the final map and CSV unserved and underserved location files? I need to check with our map team, but Z, anything that you want?
Yeah, I think we should wait on that. With the caveat that, if I were you, I'd certainly start doing some planning now. But if you want to wait until the final data is available, then you can always do that. We don't expect enormous changes, but we never know. There may be big changes exactly in your area that you had planned for, since in the end all deployments are localized. So you never know, but overall, we don't expect huge changes between updates.
Aside from basic SAM.gov registration number, is there anything more at SAM that is needed? To best of my knowledge, no, but we clarify if anything else needed. So basically that all this instruction would be part of our pre-qualification and application guideline that we will release as part of the application process. So I'm told, I know there is a long question. I'm going to answer the short one first and then go back to the longer one. I'm told that the extremely high cost threshold could vary by CVG. Is that correct? Yes, that's basically would be determined for each project area unit, basically. Going back to previous question, as an eligible applicant for BEAD funding, nonprofit encounter challenges with the letter of credit requirement, which can be difficult for smaller entities to obtain due to limited collateral. Given the high cost nature of broadband infrastructure projects, we would appreciate guidance from the CPUC in navigating the LOC requirement or the LOC waiver process, or if there are alternative solutions to meet the requirement, such as holding a CPCN. Specifically, we seek support in ensuring that all applicants, regardless of size or financial capacity, have a fair opportunity to apply for and benefit from the BEAD funding. Could you provide any assistance or recommendation on how smaller entities, such as nonprofit, can meet the LOC requirement or qualify for the LOC waiver?
Yes. Sure. So this is a concern that was shared widely, including by CPUC, to ensure that everybody could participate. And in response to feedback, NTIA released a waiver that allowed some options, and CPUC adopted those in IPv2. So if you read IPv2, you can see that there are some options for both for reducing, having a lower value letter of credit, having a declining letter of credit value, so that to so you don't have to have that much capital tied in, and also providing the alternative of a performance bond. And the performance bond has similar provisions for declining values over time, or lower starting value that holds constant. So you can read all about that in IPv2. And I believe you also cover this in one of our webinars on financial requirements. And hopefully that'll help you out there.
Thanks, Ziggy. So the next question is also about in-kind contribution. If the county contribution as in-kind contribution, like access to the county ROW to buy fiber, does that in-kind contribution go towards the total project cost calculation? How is that valued? Are there other types of in-kind contributions by counties that could be included in the total project cost?
So with the caveat that we will take our time to respond to this because it's a complex question. Theoretically it's a yes, but with certain provisions. So in general it has to be an asset that can be valued. So it has to have a value attached to it. And it has to be dedicated to the project. So it's not something that can be, that could be sort of on loan or shared in a way that you can't assess any value to it. So with those provisions, there are all kinds of assets that a county could leverage. Typically, right of way is difficult to assess and value because they don't charge any money really on it. But if they are waiving certain fees that they normally would charge, then you can count that in potentially, again with certain caveats. And likewise, if they have a conduit, that's a dedicated space. There's usually market value associated with it, so it's easy to put a price tag. They may even have a published rate on that. So those kind of in-kind contributions are certainly legitimate.
Thanks, Ziggy. So the next question is, we are working under assumption that BSLs served by licensed fixed wireless access greater than 120 Mbps, but without wireless service will be categorically considered underserved and eligible for BEAD funding.
I can take that as well.
So
just a clarification. What is and what is not eligible has been determined through the challenge process. So it's not like there is a blanket rule that applies everywhere and you can apply it. What is eligible and what is not is available in the preliminary data that you have for post-challenge data and what will be approved by NTIA. So that's your list. There may be a reconciliation of data that will happen as well prior to being published, with certain if there are certain enforceable commitments attached, etc. But that being said, that's the list that you have to look at. There was a pre-modification during the challenge process that where there was a presumption of recategorization of certain fixed wireless, but that was cellular. So it was very specific to cellular fixed wireless access. And even there, the challenge process allowed for challenges to that. So that providers could say, well, actually, we are able to deliver 100/20 and should be considered unserved. So the resolutions from the challenge process is the list of what's eligible and not eligible for now.
Thanks. Bruce, you have a follow-up?
Yes, so if I see something on the BEAD challenge map that was served before the challenge process, looks like, and continues to be served, at least on the challenge map in the post-challenge process, I can automatically assume that
Yes.
that won't be reversed. And I know that there's no challenges against those locations. There's like 100 of them. And I would have been the one to file the challenge.
Yeah.
They will not suddenly become unserved or underserved.
No. There's not going to be a flip from served to unserved or underserved. No.
That gets me going. Thank you.
Let me add one tiny caveat here. There is a rare possibility that you have something that is considered served that may either pre or post process be reclassified. And if, for example, the reason why it's considered served or rather ineligible is because there was a prior enforceable commitment, such as RDOF. And then it turns out that between now and the application window, it becomes they default on those enforceable commitments. So in those rare situations, yes, you could potentially see a flip.
So basically caveating that for that, we need to wait for the final map. We could have some expectation, but basically nothing is finalized until we publish the final map.
Exactly.
Bruce?
Yeah, the only reason that I asked this question is we have two of those kinds of situations. One with Verizon Wireless, and they're considered where there's no wireline service, but there's licensed fixed wireless from Verizon. And all of those are on that challenge map as underserved. But we also have 100 under the same circumstance with a different provider that are just no wireline service, unlicensed fixed wireless, and they're served. And if those 100 have to come back into the census block group that we are having to provide 100% estimates for, right now, if you're telling me I can move forward, that's for me, it's a move forward position because then I can start planning and estimating, and I think I will do that. But I don't want to waste my money with my design term. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bruce. And just, thank you. We understand it, but as I mentioned, like we can't basically tell that you can move forward. It's just a matter of the finalizing the map. For your specific questions, if you would like, you can reach out to that bead@cpuc.ca.gov and our basically map expert folk who are involved in the challenge process, led the challenge process, can answer that or provide more details if you would like. The next question is also about the challenge map. I'm going to read the question, but very likely also that's something that we need to take offline. On the BEAD challenge map, there are red dots that show unserved, but when you click on it, it shows the funding program that is going to make it served. Ziggy, do you have any insight into that?
No, I don't. Yeah. I'm not familiar with the map, so I'm sorry.
Neither on those details. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't have our challenge folks on this call, so feel free to reach out to our mailbox on that question. giving it a few more minutes to see if there are any other questions. Giving it one more minute. And if we don't see any more questions, we can wrap up. So the last question is basically the FAQ document. We are like finalizing our first version of FAQ document, and we plan to post it hopefully next week. And after that, basically would be a regular update to that document. The questions that, if you have asked your questions via email, we are going to include that question in the FAQ document, as well as getting back to you via email. If you have asked your questions during the office hour, basically we include all of them in the FAQ document. As I mentioned, we are working to finalize the first version of that, including all the questions that we have received during the office hours and through emails. Hopefully, that version will be posted next week. Okay, I think that's a good segue to go through the basically wrapping up stage. If you can have the slides up, thanks. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, please sign up using this link, or basically this using our website. The link is available on our website to receive email updates about the BEAD program. For questions about the subgrantee selection process, email beadgrant@cpuc.ca.gov, and for other inquiries about the BEAD program, including the challenge process, the map, please email bead@cpuc.ca.gov. As I mentioned, as part of the last question, we are developing the FAQ document, and we are trying to, our timeline is to finalize the first version and post it next week. Next slide. So as you have seen so far, and we'll continue in the next few months, we'll continue with our webinars and office hours on Tuesday and Thursdays, 1 to 2 p.m. as part of our BEAD outreach opportunities. As it's been mentioned during our webinar this week, we are not going to have office hour and webinar next week. So we resume the webinars and office hours the following week, the second week of February. These webinars and office hours are open to anyone interested in attending. Registration links will be available on the BEAD events page. So basically, you can register for all the office hours with just one registration, but for webinars, there would be specific links for each session and topic. These sessions provide an open forum for stakeholders to ask specific questions, clarification, and receive guidance on the BEAD application process. Stakeholders are encouraged to attend these sessions to fully understand the requirements and opportunities provided through the BEAD program. These events are designed to promote transparency, collaboration, and success for all potential subgrantees. Thank you for your participation today. Have a great afternoon.